Happy Saturday, everybody. Welcome to Leica's Careers in VFX presentation. I'm Tiffany Perkypile. I'm a creative recruiter here at Leica. Hello, Brea. It's not as sunny over here in Portland, to be honest. I just joined Leica as a creative recruiter in August of last year, so I'm relatively new. My background is actually in production management for VFX and feature film animation, which has allowed me to be able to partner with Steve, who is amazing and the integral part, a leader in VFX, to not only help identify the talent that we need in our VFX pipeline, but to also have a sense of development and community within our team and our community. Oftentimes, what I'm really excited for everybody to join this panel is that when I'm meeting with candidates, whether they're junior out of college or industry veterans, a lot of people in VFX do not understand the breadth of work that we're achieving in VFX here at Leica. So I'm very excited to welcome you all. Steve, I've jibber-jabbered enough. I'm going to let you take it now.
Hi, everybody. We're gonna have some fun today. I have to just come clean. I'm much better at creating visual effects for feature films than I am at Zoom. So if things go a little bit sideways, I apologize in advance. But we're gonna start. I'm gonna share my screen here, and we're gonna get into a keynote presentation that I have prepared. Here we go. And right out of the gate, what we're going to do is I am going to run a behind-the-scenes video for you. It's going to explain a lot about the studio here at Leica, a lot about the films that we make and that we have made, and the way that we endeavor as a company to tell stories. So there's a little bit of behind the scenes about Leica. And then once this is done, we're going to dig in. We're going to talk all about visual effects here at Leica, and just an overview of the crew and the types of people and the opportunities that are out there for you if you're interested in being part of this thing that is, to be honest, it's completely changed my life. So enjoy this. I hope. Here we go.
Here we go.
I hope. Trying again. Let's do this.
All right.
All right, hold on. Let's see here. Here we go.
You make beautiful VFX, but we're sometimes Zoom savvy.
All right, here we go. Escape. Screen. Oh, here we go.
Leica is really an extraordinary place. I think the air just crackles with creativity and innovation.
When I toured the Leica studio, I was just amazed at, first of all, the size of it.
Whoa.
How's that for an entrance? Everything is shot in camera. There's a real puppet in real sets, and every frame, and there's 24 frames in every second of the film, characters being adjusted and moved, and it takes 3 or 4 years to actually shoot the movie.
You feel like you're in this factory of dreamers.
There's something about stop motion specifically where it's a primal thing. It feels like a child's plaything being brought to life. What we do at Leica is to take this style of filmmaking, which is craft-based. It's about artists using their hands to bring something to life, and blend that with technologies.
There's something so seamless about it. When technology can marry storytelling like that, it's really powerful.
Kinds of stories that we're developing now are unlike anything that we've ever done before.
Your magic is growing stronger.
We grow in our creative capacity and our artistic ability with every successive film.
I'm coming with you.
The movies they make leave you with something very inspiring and heart-filled.
I feel like we're just getting warmed up. We're just getting started.
Okay. Let's see if this works out. It's funny.
I do. Everything's working.
Everything's okay?
Yes.
All right. Thank you, Tiffany. So as mentioned earlier, my name is Steve Emerson. I'm the visual effects supervisor here at the studio, and I have had the honor of being a creative supervisor on all 5 of Leica's films and our current film that's in production right now, Wildwood, which what I can say is that I can't say much of anything about right now, but I can also say that I can't wait to say a lot about it. It's an extremely exciting project, and it's all happening right now between these walls here at Leica. So I've been here at 15 years now, a little more than 15 years. One of the first questions that always comes up when talking to groups of people about Leica, which is certainly known for the stop motion animation that happens out on the stages, is where is visual effects in this process? You know, what is our contribution to making these films? And in the simplest sense, it's a bit abstract, but the simplest sense, what we're doing here with visual effects at Leica is we're just helping to tell the stories. Stop motion films, as I'm certain you understand, are incredibly difficult and time consuming to make. Everything has to be built. Everything has to be brought to life one frame at a time. So you can imagine, as a storyteller, what that means is you have to have some control or some limitations, some fences around your worlds and the types of stories that you're telling. The idea with Leica is we were going to break down those fences, and that we were going to make stop motion films that were innovative and beyond anything that had ever been done before. And we were going to do that by embracing technology. So, as an example, our most recent film, Missing Link. All right, so Missing Link, if you've had a chance to see it, maybe you haven't, it's a story that it begins in London, England, and then we go to the Pacific Northwest, and then we go to the American Southwest, and then we cross the United States, and we end up in New York, and we cross the Atlantic Ocean. We go to France and Switzerland, the jungles of Nepal, we climb the Himalayas, and spoiler alert, if you haven't seen the film yet, yeah, we're going to make it to Shangri-La. It is massive in terms of just the number of locations, the number of characters, the scope, the fact that, like, as a studio, we wanted to be respectful of all of these cultures. It is just, it's not the type of thing that any stop motion studio would ever try to make. But nevertheless, this is the film that Chris Butler, our director, wanted to make. This is a story he wanted to tell. The studio challenged us to do it, and so we do it. Yeah. But it's also important to remember that as a studio, we're all here because we love stop motion animation. So we don't just want to start to bring in a lot of digital elements and computer generated work in a vacuum. Right? So what we figured out early in the history of this studio was that the key to this whole insane idea was really going to be about collaboration. The people here that are making these films out on the stages and that are building the sets and building the puppets and bringing those puppets to life to tell these stories are some of the most talented in the world at doing this type of work. And so as a visual effects team that was going to be adding to or complementing that work, we'd be fools not to engage them and to collaborate with them and to be able to learn from them. Right? So it really became about collaboration across the studio. Visual effects, as many of you may know, is typically, it happens after a film production. In this case, we had an opportunity to be a part of that production and to be able to, learn from those that were creating what was happening out on the stages and react to it. So that became the foundation for what visual effects at Leica was going to be. So that's just sort of an overview of it. But now I'm going to get a little bit more specific about our process. This is a moment from Missing Link. I'm going to completely ruin the movie for you if you haven't seen it yet. But at the end of the film, our heroes are going to make it to Shangri-La. They're going to climb this steep staircase, and they are going to enter into the Yeti Temple. And the Yeti Temple is this vast open space filled with Yeti guards. And then the most important person at that temple is the Elder Yeti. And the shot that you see here in the bottom right, or this particular shot, is the reveal of this extremely important character to our storytelling. So what happens at the beginning of all these films is that it's all storyboarded, and then we do animatics, and those animatics are basically, they're very simple animated storytelling, or animated storyboards, I should say. So the film's basically, it's built in drawing ahead of time, and then all of the creative leads, all of the department heads, everybody gets together in a conference room, and we go through the film frame, or I should say shot by shot, and we figure out exactly how we're going to accomplish each of those shots. And those are our breakdown meetings. And in the case of this shot, what we decided was that all of these Yeti guards were going to be digital characters. Our animators out on the stages, they animate at a pace of roughly 3.5 seconds per week. So you can imagine, if we're talking about 20 plus digital guards or 20 plus Yeti guards, how long that would take them in order to be able to do that animation. So it made a lot of sense for the digital team to come in and to create those characters. We knew we were going to build a Yeti temple, so that's represented here in green. And at the far end, we have the Elder Yeti, voiced by Emma Thompson. She's a main character in the film. That is the rule, is that if we have a main character or a hero character, that is always a hand-animated puppet. So the Elder Yeti was going to be a hand-animated puppet, flanked by 2 additional puppets, digital Yeti guards. And if we ran out of set, we were going to do some extensions. That's the plan. So this is what we got. On the right side of what you're seeing here, on the upper right frame, that's the animatic for the shot. That's our goal. That's the story that we're telling at the shot level. Just below that, on the lower right side, that's color script art. So that represents the color palette, the look, the lighting, the vibe of the shot. That's where we want to end up when it's ready to go into the film. And the other 4 panels that you're seeing right now, those are what we received from the stages. So the upper left side, that's the puppet animation. You can see we put a green screen behind those puppets because inevitably this shot that honestly probably took a couple of days to get done, the animator is just going to bump into something. Something's going to get messed up. So what we decided, let's put a green screen behind the puppets. We'll make sure that we get them. And then we'll shoot what you're seeing in the upper middle frame there, the clean plate, and we'll composite that behind the puppets. Yeah. On the lower left side, the lower left panel there, those are motion controlled animated banners. So those are being done by pre-programmed robots. And in the middle lower frame there, that is a practical curtain part that was done by the animation team. All right, so what we'll do here is we're going to put all these elements together. And remember, visual effects is all about helping to tell stories. Let's see where we're at here. So curtains, part, reveal a vast empty temple with some weird green light on the floor, a big hole in the ceiling, a bunch of weird rigging. We're nowhere near being able to tell the story that we want to tell. And this is where visual effects steps in and we start to support the shot. We start to add all of the additional elements that we're going to need in order to be able to enable the filmmakers. So we're going to add Yeti guards, and we're going to fix the rigging. We're going to fix the green spill. We're going to add a little set extension up top. That's the work ahead of us. What's really exciting about this at the beginning of this process, first thing, we're going to build some Yeti guards, right? And because we're in the mix while character design and the puppet building is all happening, we have a place at the table. We're part of those conversations. And so as the character design team and the puppet team are figuring out what these characters are going to be, right, we're absorbing that information. We're sharing that information. We're part of that conversation. It just simply, it doesn't happen at other studios that are happening, or they're contributing after the fact, after the production. And so this is one thing that's certainly very unique about Leica. And so as they start to figure out the design of these puppets, and as they start to actually build these puppets, and they figure out what the materials are going to be and look at these different materials, those are being shared with us so we can take those designs and those materials and we can fold them in to the digital versions of these puppets. And this is where we end up. The center image here is a physical puppet that was created by our puppet team here at Leica. On the left side, these are a couple of Yeti guards that we created while working with them. And on the right side of this frame, that's a posed digital Yeti guard character that is ready to be cast into the film. This is the type of thing that we'll show to the director, and we'll see, and really honestly, it comes down to, does it look like a puppet? Does it represent the style of the film? Can we drop this into a shot behind all the puppets and into the sets? And nobody will know that we've even been in the mix. And if we can all confidently say, yes, that looks like a puppet, that's worthy of being in one of our films, then we move forward and it's ready for casting. The other thing that's important to remember is that in the digital world, we can do anything we want. There are boundless things that you can do when you're working digitally and on computers. But in the physical world out there with the puppets, they have limitations. So one thing that's really important is we have to make sure that we're folding those same limitations into the digital work as well. So our rigging team, the artists that are responsible for building the skeletons within the digital characters, have to be in lockstep with the rigging team that are creating the skeletons for the puppets. So whether it's digital or it's a puppet that's being photographed out on the stages, it still has the same performance limitations. And then when we're ready to animate these characters and to bring them to life, our animation team here in visual effects is reporting to the same animation supervisor that is overseeing all of the animation performances that are happening out on the stages with the puppets. So in the end, if we're doing it right, everything's cohesive, and you're not even sure as a viewer what's digital, what's not. You're just enjoying the story. Last piece for this particular shot, we're going to get into rotopaint and compositing. This is probably the largest part of the team when we talk about visual effects at Leica. I'd say a good 50% of our teams on all of these films is specific to rotopaint and compositing. They're doing all the cosmetic work. They're doing rig removal. We'll talk a little bit more about that. They're going to add some light rays and integration, do some color sweetening on the shots. And then, so here's where we were. And remember, we're telling stories. So we rewind it. And again, the curtain parts. And on the opposite side, we see an army of Yeti guards who step aside and reveal a vast Yeti temple. And at the far end, the Elder Yeti. It's storytelling one shot at a time. And visual effects here at Leica is just helping to tell those stories. So we've done this on all of our films. In Paranorman, in this case, we took an empty street corner and we turned it into a mob scene. For the box trolls, we took Snatcher on the mecha drill in an empty cave, and we turned it into something of a nightmarish apocalypse of fire and smoke. Kubo, initially, he was playing a shamisen for one other character and a drill. And then visual effects showed up, and yeah, we gave him an entire crowd of villagers to enjoy his talents. And then for Sir Lionel Frost, initially he was swimming in a sea of green, and visual effects helped to set him within the depths of Loch Ness. That's it. We're storytelling. That's what visual effects is doing here at Leica. We're enabling storytellers where ultimately resources out on the stages might fall short. Now, one of our proudest moments as a visual effects team was during the production of Kubo and the Two Strings in 2016. And one of my favorite parts of the film is the opening of the film. And it takes place in a full water environment. And if you haven't guessed, like, water is extremely difficult to do well with stop motion animation. You can't do it one frame at a time. You can't grab a hold of it. You can't move it. You can't pose it. So from the get-go, I think we all realized that the water in Kubo was going to end up being something of a post-production or visual effect. But same thing, we didn't want to go there without trying to do something truly unique and that was representative of something that would exist within a stop motion universe. Yeah. So this is how we all went about it. So it always starts with a piece of artwork. And this is the look. This is the, like, if we can bring this piece of art to life, that will be success for us. So we all work to figure out how we're going to bring this piece of art to life. But before we start or we boot up a single computer, we go out onto the stages, and with all of the stop motion talent that's out there, we say, okay, take the computers off of the table. If you had to just do this out here on the, like, what would it look like? What would you do? And so some of those tests include this, which is it's a theater style wave system, which again, it's not going to work for the movie, but it's something to talk about. It's something to be inspired by. It's something to look at and say, my God, like the patterning and the motion and the shape language. And you put a team of creative people in a room and you look at something like this and you can't help but be inspired to find the next step. And so for us, when we were doing Kubo, the big breakthrough came when they built this contraption here, which was, it was a grid that had this undulating sort of quality to it when they would animate. And then what we did was we took that contraption and started to put different types of materials onto it. And then the big breakthrough happened with garbage bags, believe it or not, but because the garbage bags, the weight of them started to sink into these open spaces in the grid patterning. And it honestly came back around to, that looks really, really cool. Like, how can we build off of that? So then we take those characteristics and we fold it into the digital version of these water systems. And then there was so much more to the water, like when you talk about like churn and spray and white caps, and all of this needed to be designed. And so the art department, they would come up with these amazing creative solutions with practical materials. This is water churn that they designed and they gave to us with cut pieces of paper that we then took and we folded it into our water system. And then this here is the final proof of concept that we did for Kubo water. So, you know, this took us a good year to find, and we were so excited when we finally hit this look. Most post-production cycles, at least that I was involved in prior to coming to Leica, in total were 3 months, maybe 6 months. It took us a year just to figure out how to do water. And that for me is the greatest part about contributing to these films, is that we're given the time to do it right and to hopefully achieve something that is totally unique. And yeah, I just, yeah, my experiences prior to being here, I was not given the opportunity to do just that. But for Kubo and the Two Strings, so this is something I want to share with you. This is, I've shown this a couple of times previously. We took it to Odyssey in 2017. This is the opening of the film before and after visual effects. And I think what it'll hopefully do is that it will enlighten you as to the impact this team does, or this team has, on the storytelling and the final images that you see in the films that we're creating here at the studio. So it's about 2.5 minutes long. On the left side, you're going to see the raw plates just as we received them from the stages, which, spoiler alert, it's really not much more than a puppet on green screen. And then on the right side, you're going to see a panel with the final image as it appeared in the film. So here's a before and after visual effects of the opening of Kubo and the Two Strings.
If you must blink, do it now. Pay careful attention to everything you see and hear, no matter how unusual it may seem. Please be warned, if you fidget, if you look away, if you forget any part of what I tell you, even for an instant, then our hero will surely perish. His name is Kubo. His grandfather stole something from him. And that really is the least of it.
All right, I have to admit to everybody, I've worked on Dolph Lundgren action films. and I'm so in love with what we just saw. And like it still affects me emotionally. And that's a big thing, I think, for those of you that are just beginning to embark on your visual effects careers. I hope that you get the opportunity to create things that you will be equally proud of. Hey, Tiffany, you still out there?
Yes, I am.
All right, so I have some overviews of the departments, a little bit about the different types of positions we have here as part of our visual effects team. I have a 4-minute missing link breakdown reel that shows some more behind the scenes. But even more importantly, with the time that we have left, I want to make sure that we're able to answer any questions that people might have out there. So I don't know, was there anything in the chat that you wanted to bring up right now or that we can try and answer, or should I just keep going?
I don't see any questions as of yet. I do see a lot of excitement among our community, which is fantastic. I have to say, personally, myself watching that clip again, who said it? Emily hit me so much as a mother. Man, same. I actually got a little teary-eyed just watching that again. But there is one question: what programs do you use for compositing?
Oh, compositing. We are entirely a nuke shop. We did Coraline using Shake, and then moving into Paranorman, we transitioned into nuke. We've had an amazing partnership with the Foundry for well over 12 years now. A lot of their tools are here and they're in the pipeline, and we lean on them every day. Yeah, in terms of compositing, we are entirely about nuke.
As from Rez, what for the water effects, was that all done in Houdini?
Yes, it was. Yeah, that was it. I'll tell you a quick thing about the water effects. So we were just finishing up the box trolls, and we're getting ready to transition into Kubo and the Two Strings, and that opening sequence, that had been storyboarded out. It was full animatics. It was going to be the next film. I hadn't seen or heard anything about it, and then I was brought into a room, and they told me, they said, we're going to do it's a samurai film, and this is the opening to the movie. Now, mind you, again, it comes back around to the fact that water is really, really hard to do with these movies. We have water in our past films. Coraline, we did it on it was piano wire with little bits of plastic that would reflect specular highlights. And then we had to, after the fact, go in and do rotoscoping and clean up all the wire to get it out of there to make it feel like rain. In Paranorman, there's a toilet that overflows, and we did all that with replacement animation and 3D printing. There's some moments in the box trolls where we did it with shower glass. And then suddenly they show me this sequence that was so far beyond anything that we had ever done. And I had absolutely no idea how we were going to do it. Now, for those of you that know anything, are familiar with the history of the visual effects industry, there was a moment, it was honestly right when we were about to get started on this project, that Life of Pi won the Academy Award. And unfortunately, the studio behind that film, Rhythm and Hues, for whatever reason, there's a film out there if you want to watch it that gets into all the details, ended up going bankrupt. But I went out there and I said, who is the best water guy to do VFX that Rhythm and Hues was just dumb enough to lay off and put out into the job pool? And it was a gentleman named David Horsley, and he sits out there to this day. And he came in and he worked with us for a better part of the year. And yeah, that film, I mean, or at least what we achieved with that, David just celebrated his 10-year anniversary here at the studio. And yeah, we couldn't have done it without him. I'm honestly getting teary-eyed talking about Dave.
No, I can't wait to talk to David about this one day.
But yeah, we couldn't have done it without him. So, all right.
So I
Anything else?
I definitely would love us to start to talk about the VFX pipeline because that's a question that I receive a lot from our candidates and applicants. But I just want to do a couple more questions. Raquel, in regards to Raquel and Teresa's questions, how do we stand out in hiring race? How competitive the VFX field is? I would love to touch that base on that towards the end of our presentation. Those are great questions. Sophie, are there any opportunities for software engineers in VFX? Yes, there is. I would invite you to look at our careers page at Leica.com. Look under production technology. Coincidentally, one of our other recruiters, our lead recruiter, Mike Stroud, is also watching our panel as well. And there is a need for production technology applicants such as yourself. So please look at our careers page for that. Let's keep going. There's from Chris Van. Does Leica use Maya for most of their previous animation work, or do we use in-house software?
We use Maya. If you know Maya and you want to come here and work and there's an opportunity for you, yeah, well, let's chat. But yeah, it's Maya.
Awesome. And then we can definitely Nancy will dive into your production management question and internships towards the end. So yeah, let's just keep going.
Okay. So as mentioned, like animation, particularly in the early years, but I think there's still this kind of this misconception about how we make our films, and then the types of candidates we're looking for. We're certainly looking for anybody that has talent. But the guts of it is that what we're doing here is these are live action film productions, right? We have a camera, we have a set, and we have an actor. And that actor just happens to be between 6 and 12 inches tall, and the performance is being captured one frame at a time. But outside of that, it's live action film production. I personally knew nothing about stop motion animation other than I loved it. Prior to coming here at Leica, I'd spent my time previously doing visual effects for live action films, and all of the talents or the skills that I developed over the years working down in Southern California, everything immediately translated. And so that's it. It's really this is a live action film production. That scenario in regards to the visual effects work that's happening. So if you consider live action film production, really what that is you plan stuff, you build stuff, you fix stuff, and you show stuff, right? And for those of us that are a little bit more skilled in verbal nuance and word choice, basically what that is pre-production, production, post-production, and exhibition. I know all about virtual production, and we're not going to fold that into that discussion other than to say it's happening here at Leica as well. But that's going to complicate this presentation, so we're just going to pause that for now. But regardless, in the traditional sense, when you're making a movie, pre-production, production, post-production, and exhibition. So this is a traditional timeline for a film. It's linear, right? You plan, you shoot, you do the post-production work, you release it to the public. What's really exciting about Leica is that those three things, they overlap. So you could be a year in on a Leica film doing post-production and visual effects, and at the same time, you're still in the mix with the production side of things, and even the pre-production side of things. And this was something that, for myself, when I first showed up, it completely blew my mind that I could be looking at a shot and there could be a problematic green screen, and we still had additional same as shots that were going to be captured over the course of the next several months. And I could get up from my desk and go out to the stages and stand there with the cinematographers and the lighting camera people and just say, can you make this little tweak for me so that the next 3 shots that I have to do will be that much easier? That just doesn't happen anywhere else. And it enables us to be able to move through inventory and get to something that's really visually exciting much more quickly. Huge advantage for us. This is an overview of the department here in visual effects at Leica. What's interesting about this, at least for me, when I finally sat down and I did this exercise, is I realized that there is a counterpart that's happening out on the stages when they're doing the puppet work and the animation and building the sets to everything that we're doing here in visual effects. And so that became an opportunity about connecting creative people. So if we had modelers here in visual effects, how can we connect them with the sculptors that are out there creating sculpts that will drive the puppet builds? Same thing, we talked about rigging. When we get into animation, that's another one that's come up. But regardless, there are voices in traditional stop motion filmmaking that can influence and consult and collaborate with visual effects artistry as well. And so we really work to be able to connect those dots here. When we talk about production management and tech viz, this is all about planning. If you're the type of person that is about scheduling and getting things done, there may be a place for you as part of our production management team. We do have a tech viz team, we have a previs team, we have survey and scan artists here as well. These are people that are typically, they skew a bit more technical, but they are out there on the stages with the puppets, collecting incredibly valuable information that is going to end up being the foundation of all the visual effects work. When we get into assets, these are the people that are actually building the stuff that's going to end up in the shots. In visual effects, we have modelers who are sculptors and riggers who are problem solvers, typically somewhat technical, really into what it's going to take in order to be able to create a specific performance. We have texture painters that can recreate photorealistic textures, working in concert with shading artists. We have look dev artists that ultimately will look at the nuance of physical light on a surface and figure out technically what it's going to take in a computer to recreate that look. So far beyond me. I'm so blessed to work with some of these people. And then certainly environment artists and generalists is another big one. The thing about Leica is at any given time, there are so many problems to solve and there's so much work on our plate. It inevitably creates a wealth of opportunity. So maybe if you're a younger artist just getting started and you haven't quite found your way yet, you could start on one path and then we could start to lead you down another. And then before you know it, you have assembled a wealth of skills that would turn you into a generalist of sorts. And those types of people are incredibly valuable. These are the types of shots on past productions where certainly we never could have gotten them done without these asset artists and their contributions. And then when we move on and we start to talk about the shot work, we have an editor here in visual effects that is responsible for translating editorial information from the production side of things over into the visual effects side. Todd's been here for 15 years now. Not a lot of opportunity there, so we're going to move on from VFX editorial. But then we get into match move layout. These people are amazing with what they do. It's about recreating a camera and the characteristics of that camera in a digital environment to make sure that it matches whatever was happening out on the stages. That's with match move for camera, and then certainly with the layout side of things. When we finally start to put together a shot that has digital elements to it, these are the people that are going to give us our first look at true composition of these shots. On the animation side of things, these are our performers. If you're the type of person that wants to express yourself through character performance, but you're not really into the idea of maybe getting up on a stage or standing in front of a camera and digital animation appeals to you, this is your opportunity to be able to express yourself. These are the actors within the department. The effects people, I had already mentioned that these are the ones that are creating elements for shots that we can't get out on stages because it's fire, it's smoke, it's water, it's debris. It's the types of things that you can't necessarily grab a hold of and pose and move one frame at a time, particularly when you're chasing, naturalism and nuance. These are the types of people that like to blow things up. And this is a really, really exciting part of the department. Again, like calling back to that previous question, our software choice is Houdini. So if you're excited about Houdini and what that software is capable of, this is the part of the department for you. If you're somebody that likes to paint with light, you probably have a place within our lighting team. This again is just an example of how we were able to take something from the stages, which wasn't necessarily delivering the tone of a particular moment that was supposed to be intimidating and frightening and nightmarish. And we give it to our CG lighters, and they're able to completely reinvent the feel of a shot. If you love light and the natural world and feel like you want to express yourself through lighting, this is a really exciting place to be within our pipeline. The Rotopaint team, this is a team that I always call them the unsung heroes. It's usually the largest team in the department. There are a lot of people that are coming into Rotopaint as somewhat entry level. We also have a lot of people on our Rotopaint team that have been doing it for decades, and they just love it. They love to be able to sit down at their workstations, throw on some headphones, listen to a podcast, listen to some music, and just paint the day away. What they'll do is they go in here at Leica, and inevitably we have a lot of rigging systems that the animators require out on the stages in order to be able to achieve these performances. All of that needs to be painted out after the fact. And then also we have a 3D printing team that's creating facial performances that need some help after the fact. They go in, they clean everything up, and they are one of the most important parts of this department and certainly the largest team that we have here. And compositing, this is the team at the end of the line. This is where I came up from. These are my people. These are the ones that take these unbelievable efforts from across this entire production and puzzle piece it all together at the end of the line to hopefully create something that a viewer that is experiencing the story will believe it was captured at a single moment in time through a physical camera lens. If you can pull that off, make it believable, you're a compositor. I loved it. I love puzzles. And then also because it's at the end of the line, you get to actually see the final version of your work on a movie screen. And if you haven't figured it out yet, I'd love to talk. And so this is also an opportunity for people that like to sit down and talk to other creative leads and speak to the work. A lot of communication in the mix as well with compositing. So that is our department. Now I have a 4-minute breakdown reel for Missing Link. What do you think we should do, Tiffany? Do you want to take some more questions? Because I know we're tight on time. We only have 8 minutes.
Yeah, I think the community would love to see the breakdown. So I mean, let's just take a few questions if that's okay with everybody. And then we can end on the breakdown.
Got it.
Alexandra McDermott wants to see the breakdown, so let's go with it. I got you, Alexandra. So I've been trying to answer questions as we go. So I'm going to try and get to everybody. Someone asked about the difference between for production management. Everybody, so just as an FYI, we do use shot grid within Leica. So if you know shot grid, boom, I love saying it. The difference between when we look at production management applicants, we tend to, the difference between feature film and VFX is that we tend to go with PMs that have experience in VFX, only because due to the nature of our work on the VFX side, we like to know that you understand the VFX pipeline from live action to our VFX pipeline, so that all that information is transferable. If you have an animation background, that's great. That is usually applicable to our asset development team, our rapid prototyping team as well. So there are opportunities for both sides, both experiences. But to be able to speak to a live action meets VFX pipeline in your production management experience is invaluable. I'm just gonna keep going. I think there's a lot of questions about remote work, Steve. So I've been answering as I
This
go.
is all new. I mean,
Yeah.
we certainly, prior to the pandemic, there was no remote work happening here at the studio. It was, if you were working on a Leica film, you were on site. We want to have you here. And beyond that, you know, I don't know if you've ever looked at the credits of our films versus other big VFX films, but we've never had more than 90, maybe 91, 70 on Kubo, and fewer than that in the previous films. The part of the reason that we can move so quickly and achieve such a high bar is that if we see something in a theater that doesn't feel right, we can immediately grab all the players in that image and go jump desk side with an artist and work through it all together. Now we're into a whole new era where if there's a problem and somebody's remote and then Zoom isn't working and then we have to schedule follow-up because other people, it just becomes far more complex. We cannot move as quickly. All that said, the world is changing. Visual effects, film production, it's all changing. We know very well that we need to evolve as a studio. So honestly, we are right now, we are in the midst of drafting some studio guidelines that will enable people to be able to work from home or even in hybrid situations, part-time here at the studio or away from the studio. We just have to do it. Our preference is we want you here. We have a lot of fun. And go out, you know, we're out there on the stages looking at puppets and sets and being around each other. We have a coffee house here that doesn't cost anything that we can go and hang out in. But nevertheless, we understand that for some candidates, it's more attractive to be able to work from their homes. So we're working towards evolving and drafting just a set and easy to understand sense of guidelines for that situation. For now, the easiest way I can answer that is if you want a hybrid or work from home situation, ask Tiffany. She'll let you know if you can do it.
Absolutely. And just to echo Steve's sentiment, I mean, yeah, there are, and I think I've kind of covered this in the chat. There are certain roles and opportunities for remote work here at Leica. However, I do want to just stress the invaluable opportunity to be here on set, to be able to walk over. Our lead CG lighter, Joe Strasser, actually said it very perfectly for me the other day. As a lighter, as a compositor, to be able to go on set and actually see the lighting direction, the textural qualities of our films, everything we do in VFX has to match that look of film. So to be able to be here on site and experience that in person, along with our cultural, the culture of our community at Leica, and you know, there are the perks like coffee, and there's health, there's wellness opportunities, events. It's great.
Might I add to that? When Joe goes out on set, he's standing shoulder to shoulder with Caleb Deschanel, who shot Being There, Lion King, parts of Apocalypse Now. Like you just don't get those types of opportunities at other studios, and so it's a real blessing to be able to do that kind of stuff. Great.
So we are running out of time. So I want to definitely get to the breakdown that Steve has. Everybody that's on this, I mean, it's over 100 people, participants. So thank you for your time and joining us. If we did not get to your questions, I am one person, so I'll do my best. But if you want to hit me up on LinkedIn, I will do my best to address anything and everything that we did not get to cover. So let's go ahead, Steve, take it away. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. We hope to see you up here in Portland, Oregon. Here's the missing link breakdown reel. It's basically what it's going to do is it's going to show you the shot as it was captured out on the stages. And then over the course of 10, 20 seconds, you're going to see it become the final shot for the film. Enjoy it. And again, I hope I get the opportunity to work with you. Take care.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Do not hesitate to reach out.